going to let Miss Betsy Ross come up, and she is going to tell you who she is and what she did.
Okay, the first thing I want to do is to show you my pretty dress. It looks a lot different than yours, doesn't it? Do you know why? It's because this is a dress that had been worn over 200 years ago. The women dressed this way. It is long. One thing you're going to notice about it is there's no buttons. See? There's no buttons on my dress. Do you know why? Because they weren't popular. Now they had buttons, but they were expensive buttons. To make the buttons, you would have to carve a piece of wood out, or maybe a shell, or a piece of metal. So they were hard to get. But when they developed plastic, then we had buttons. You have plastic buttons on your dress? See? So everybody then was able to have buttons. But most people didn't have buttons. So I have no buttons. I'm tied into this dress. See my bow? It ties us into the dress and holds the dress together. With the dress, you would wear a sandal like this. Or maybe do some of you girls go to ballet? Like a ballet shoe, it would go with this dress. It has the Empress waistline, which is very popular. It had just come out. Everybody wanted the Empress waistline dress. And I have a mop cap. That's to keep my hair clean.
Yeah.
Okay, I want you to use your imagination now and pretend that I'm just an old lady and I'm talking to you and I'm going to tell you my story. Okay, can you do that? It was on January the 1st in the year of our Lord, 1752, that I was born. This was in the city of Philadelphia, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Now, Pennsylvania was a colony of England. There was no United States like we live in. This is a colony that England ruled and made the laws for them. She was born under that. I was given the name of Elizabeth Grissom, but my friends call me Betsy, and you can call me Betsy too, okay? My parents were Quakers, and they gave us a good education. Now, they had 17 children to educate, but they did, and when we got older, they wanted us to be able to have a trade, to be able to do something. So they would take us to a place, I was taken to an upholstery shop, where I was taught the upholstery business. Now, in the upholstery shop, we covered chairs, couches. We also did sewing jobs for people. They'd bring them in because we sewed. We sewed flags for people or whatever they brought in. And I learned how to do all this. I could sew. We could cover couches and chairs. But there was something a little more interesting to me. It was another man who worked there. His name was John Ross. John and I fell in love. But we had one problem. My parents, being Quakers, did not approve of marrying outside the church. And John was an Episcopalian. So what could we do? We did what we thought we could. We ran away. One night in November of 1773, we ran away. We crossed the Delaware River into the colony of New Jersey and got married. Do you remember about Benjamin Franklin? He had a son named William, and William signed our marriage certificate for us. Well, when we came back home, my parents wouldn't have anything to do with us, which that means nothing, no more. But that was all right. I went with John to his church, the Episcopalian church. John's father was the minister here, and we had a certain place when we went to church. We sat in this place. Across the aisle from us was the place where George and Martha Washington sat. They're pretty good people. Now, George would come to a poster shop quite a bit, have us do jobs and things like this. Very nice people. I liked them. So we went on with our lives like this. And the time came, John and I got to talking, and we decided it was time. We knew enough. So it was time for us to set up our own upholstery shop. That's what we did. We set up our own shop, got our own business. By this time, the colonies and England were having troubles. England would do one thing, and the colonies would respond likewise, and back and forth. And it made it difficult for us to get our fabrics and supplies to upholster. So what were we going to do for a living if we didn't have it? John said, well, I will enlist in the Pennsylvania militia. And that's what he did. It was in January of 1776. The building he was guarding exploded. He was injured. and he died. I was 24 years old, a widow. My family didn't have anything to do with me. But I did have the upholstery shop. I had a way to make my living, to get my money that I could buy my groceries, clothes, or whatever I needed. So I kept up with the shop. That spring, Uncle George Ross, George Washington, and their friend Robert Morris came to see me. They asked if I would sew a flag for them. George Washington had designed this flag, and I looked at it, and I said, well, we kind of need to do this, that, and the other. And one thing he had was a star, a 6-pointed star. I said, well, why did you make it 6-pointed? Well, so I thought it'd be easier for you to make. I told him, well, no, I can make a 5-pointed star easier than a 6-pointed star. Let me show you. I took my fabric, folded it up, and with one clip of my scissors, I made a 5-pointed star. See? Just one clip of my scissors, that's all it took. Okay, so we'll make 5-pointed stars. You will notice on your flag today, you still have my 5-pointed star. See?
Right up there.
That's right. 5-pointed, all of your stars. Okay, so then he said he wanted the colors red, white, and blue, and he kind of had design drawn out. And this is what we came up with. We have red. He wanted the color red because this was England's color, and we had been a colony of England. So we have a red stripe because we did have England as our mother country. We have a white stripe because let them know we succeeded. We no longer are, that our history is England. We have a blue field with stars on it. Each colony, see, there were 13 colonies in the beginning, which made the first 13 states. This is if you were looking up in the sky at night, that you could imagine you were seeing the stars, which were the colonies. Now, as time went on, there were new states added. Do you know which state Arkansas was? The 25th state to be added. So each time we get a new state, we get a new star. If you will look at this flag and count the stars off to star number 25, that's Arkansas's star. You know that? That stands for Arkansas when we became part of the Union. This is known as the Betsy Ross flag. So when you see this, remember Betsy. She's the one that made it. Okay, since I was no longer married to John, my parents would take me back then. So I did return to the Quaker Church. And I remarried. I married Joseph Ashburn. We had 2 little girls. And Joseph said, well, he wanted to help the colonies gain their independence from England. So he went. He was out there. Of course, we didn't have ways of communicating, and I didn't know it right off, but he was captured by the British. They took him to England and put him in prison in England, and he died in England. Of course, I was over here in Philadelphia. I didn't know about it until our friend John Claypool came and told me. He had been with him. He told me he died. Well, I think John had something a little more in mind than just telling my husband died. I was free to marry again. And John Claypool and I did get married. And we had 5 little girls. I had 7 girls, no boys, but 7 girls. And of those 7 girls, 5 of them grew to maturity. The other 2 died before they got bigger. Elizabeth, Rachel, Clarissa, Jane, Susanna, all grew to maturity. I stayed in the Quaker Church until the church that I went to by 1834, we only had me and one man in the church left, and we decided it was time to close the church down. John Claypool had already died, but I was there at the time we closed the door for the Quaker Church for the last time in 1834. Betsy lived to be 84 years old. She died on January the 30th, 1836.